So let me just jump straight into it and say, why is investing such a problem for most of us? Because it's quite simple that in spite of so many million years of evolution, the human mind is still not trained to assess financial risk. This may sound hard to believe, but when you see a snake or you see a tiger, the body automatically reacts. Okay, there is a flow of adrenaline. You know that you have to be fearful. You run. And it's a physical, biochemical reaction that happens automatically. Doesn't happen when you look at dangerous financial products that are going to decimate your savings. And this is the reason why people make mistakes about where to invest, how to invest, who to trust, because our mind plays tricks with us. So what is the first mistake we make? We tend to look at financial products the way we look at other physical consumer products. So you look at big brands and you think they're going to give you a better product. Doesn't happen in the financial world. You go to a foreign bank, you pay more, you may get a cappuccino and a nice setting, but it is just as likely to cheat you as a cooperative bank or a private bank. There is absolutely no difference in the brand names except the ambience and the environment and, how they treat you. Other than that, there's usually nothing. When you buy a consumer product, you can plug it in. You buy a toaster, you buy a washing machine, you know the instructions, you plug it, put it on, it starts. You know it's working. If it doesn't, you buy an AC, it doesn't work, you return it the next day. In all financial products, whether you've done the right thing or not is known after about a year. Okay? You buy a car, you test drive it. You go to buy anything else, you go to a mall, you may ask for a demonstration. There is no test drive and no demonstration in financial products. Even if you go by the slogan mutual fund sahi hai, you get to know when a Reliance happens or they say there's a standstill, Z is not able to pay, then you know whether sahi hai ki nahi. Till that time you're unclear. This is the core difference between financial products and consumer products, but we tend to look at it, we tend to go by the same advertising and we fall for ads, and I'm going to keep showing you how this happens throughout this presentation. So 5 fundamental things that you need to focus on. One is, this entire presentation is not meant for experts. Okay, this is meant for people like you and me who are doing another job. Okay, some of us may be doctors, lawyers, engineers, whatever. We are not financial experts pouring into financial products all the time. So you're doing a day job which is different. You've got money saved. You want it to be safe for your retirement, right? So the key thing that you have to focus on is don't lose money. So if you don't want to lose money, you have to look at safe products, which means that 0.5% more, 0.25% more, somebody coming to your office and saying it's a great investment, that woman is earning 20%, or some woman is selling you Hira gold, sell your flat. No, because that is not meant for people like you and me. We are looking at safe investments, safe products. All of us need some insurance because insurance is to secure your future and inevitable contingencies that we don't know about. How you get there is quite simple. In fact, they talk about human life being dictated by two emotions, fear and greed. Both come into play when we are talking about financial products. In fact, they say greed is bad. Though if you watch the movie Wall Street, they'll tell you greed is good. Michael Douglas said that, but no, greed is bad when it comes to financial products. And in fact, fear is good. Be fearful, be paranoid, you're less likely to make mistakes. So somebody comes and tells you something, avoid getting emotionally trapped, avoid falling for it, be skeptical, be worried, you're going to be a lot more careful. So when I talk about be fearful or skeptical, I'm going to just start with 2 examples as a bit of fun to say how extreme people can get, okay? And these are both stories from our neighborhood. They're right next door, both of them in Dadar. So there's this woman who's a doctor who took 25 lakhs and went to Lonavala because somebody told her that by putting a magic chemical on her currency notes, it would quadruple. Okay? I mean, she's lucky to be alive and to file a police complaint after that. But A, what she was doing is fraudulent. She's still alive. It's lucky that they didn't sort of bump her off over there. People have been bumped for far less than this. But 25 lakhs, and she thought a chemical. So, people are gullible. This is a doctor. This is not an illiterate woman. And this is a story that's reported in the media. So it's not hearsay, gossip. We're not making it up. This was in the papers just 2-3 days ago. This is a wife of apparently a famous sound recordist, and I think it was just 3 days ago. She got cheated like about 6 times because she kept sharing her OTP for various things. And what did she share it for? Invariably greed. So somebody calls her up, says you'll get some reward points, you're going to get some travel package with a big discount. She likes it, she goes and pays it. Every single time, the standard, not once, twice, not in one day, over a few weeks, she repeatedly gave her OTP to fraudsters, and it was sucking out money from her account. It's only after that she has now finally gone and filed a complaint. This is extreme, if you ask me, okay? But it is happening. Educated people, both examples from this neighborhood, both are here in Dadar. And if you think this is not happening, I'm now coming to the less extreme ones where you won't believe how much of money is being lost. This is a 2016 seminar of CBI and vigilance agencies. They said that Indians across 26 states, 6 crore Indians had lost staggering 85,000 crore. If you ask me, it is far more than that, because this 2016 seminar is probably talking about numbers that ended in 2014. It is significantly more. It may be even double of that. What do they lose money in? It's invariably Ponzi schemes, multi-level marketing schemes, somebody who says you're going to get a higher return, somebody in your office who says 3 mahine mein double hoga, or Hira Gold was one example I talked about, but look at some of these others, okay? So simple provision that you have to look at. If a bank pays a certain amount as an FD, look at the highest return that you're getting on a bank FD. If it is 3 to 4% higher than that, you need to worry, because you have to ask yourself, why will anyone in business pay a higher return if they can get your money at a lower price? So the minute they are paying a higher return, it means that there is something that you have to worry about, not them. They're getting your money. If they're going to pay more, it means that there is a risk, there is a chance that your money is not going to come back. And Indians fall all the time for these pyramid schemes which say, introduce 2 people, right hand, left hand, you're going to get so much money. Each time you bring more people into the scheme, not only are you getting money, but those people are going to get 2 more, and then you're going to get money. Every one of these is, and one thing is certain, they fail. Whether they fail in 6 months, whether they'll fail in 10 years, whether they've gone global and they last for much longer, we don't know. I think, in fact, Mr. Tahir here was the first to come and tell me about Hira Gold. And I remember our discussion, and we kept saying, we don't know when it's going to fail. But it is going to fail. And the only guarantee that we can't give is when it will happen. It happened, right? That was not the only one. Even the lookalike schemes of Hira Gold failed. So we can't say when, but these are going to fail. So here's one example. City Limousine. This was, I think, 2001 or 2. He was paying a return of over 100% for 3 years before he stopped paying. Used to go around with Shah Rukh Khan and Dilip Kumar. He used to be on page 3 of the papers every day. And at the end of the day, these are 10,000 people sitting and asking the police for their money. It has still not come, okay? I'm going to quickly run through these because you don't need to know the details. What you need to know is the size of the schemes and the number of people that are cheated. So pearls, I mean, even today, SEBI is looking at it, 5,000 rupees is going to be paid, okay, per person. 49,000 crore is what finally, after the Supreme Court case, is what they're talking about. This does not include interest. Gold Quest, people like Michael Ferreira have been pushing it. We have said 5,000 crore. I think the number is significantly higher now. But that scheme continues. It hasn't stopped. Every one of you know about Sharada. Only 10,000 rupees is returned. There were so many politicians involved. All of them are scot-free. Some of them have jumped parties. It raised anywhere between 20 to 30,000 crore. Look at the numbers I'm talking about. I'm not even saying 1,000 crore, which is big. We're talking about 20 to 30,000 crore. And the money has not been returned. These were the poorest people. This wasn't even a Ponzi. They just offered 3-4% more than what the bank was giving. And people were putting their money in there because they looked at newspapers. They looked at the fact that these guys were forever with the chief minister, and they were members of this leading party. Rose Valley, same. In fact, at one time in West Bengal, there were about 20 of these schemes. This man was in parliament, the guy who floated it. He was a Rajya Sabha member of the Trinamool party. The government has now come up with this new act. So you had a pyramid schemes and price chits act, which didn't quite work, because what happens in all these schemes is that you keep getting a high return initially, right? So you're satisfied, you're not complaining. Even after the return stops for a long time, they will continue to fool you by saying, all right, just wait, you're getting the money. And since it is so much higher, you wait. By the time you're ready to complain, it is too late. And the police can act only when there is a complaint. And usually when there is a complaint, it's too late. So now there is a central act that has been promulgated. We have not, it basically does two things. One is it criminalizes the floating of schemes which are not regulated. So everything has to be regulated. They cannot do promotions and advertising. Anything that's not specifically cleared under the law will be banned. Now, the advantage of this act is that there will be no advertisements. I don't know if you all remember Speak Asia, but they hired the biggest ad agency called Lintas. They had half-page ads. That kind of thing will not happen. But all of you know, I mean, some of these guys don't have to advertise. They don't have to take a half-page ad, because the minute they're offering higher returns, it's all word of mouth. It's in your housing society. It's in your Bishi circuit. It's in your office. It just spreads like wildfire, because they say somebody has invested and they're getting high returns. So that there is an act is good. The efficacy of the act we still have to see, because we've not seen a single case that has been tried against it. So where do you invest, right? We say as a rule, at least make sure that these are regulated by government regulators. So in the financial sector, we have 4 main regulators that we need to worry about. One is the RBI for banks and finance companies. Then there's the insurance regulator. There's SEBI for market-related issues, and there is PFRDI. So there's no guarantee that the regulator is doing his job, because the lack of regulatory accountability is another different ballgame in India altogether. We're going to talk about it. But at least if it's regulated, the pressure is on the regulator to, go after the person who scammed you, to try and recover the money, to set up a committee. So like we said, Pearls has a committee which was being set up under a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I don't know when it will work, but there is no escape from being careful. Okay, it's your money. You have to be careful. It's relatively safer if there is a regulator who's asked for some kind of registration, disclosure. Somebody has gone through the document that is ultimately being sold to you, and it's got a once over. So it's safer than the kind of schemes that we're talking about. Pension. So where do we put our money first? It's usually in a bank, right? So the first place where our savings go is in a bank account. Earlier, when we used to do this seminar till 2016-17, it was quite simple. We had only the first three to talk about. I used to say Sarkari banks, more than 45% of Indian banking is government-owned nationalized banks. So we are very lucky. It's safe, nothing to worry about. The bank's net worth may be fully eroded, but your deposits are safe. That continues even today, but you have this FRDS Act and FRDI Act which is coming. So whether that situation will hold or not, we don't know. But so far, public sector banks, nationalized banks are safe. Private banks, again, we used to say large private banks are safe. Okay, if it's a large bank, the global lesson after 2008, when we had a global financial crisis, was that too big to fail, so the government bails it out. They don't allow it to collapse because it leads to systemic issues. Now, India has done something different. We had a systemically important institution like infrastructure leasing and financial services having failed. It's caused a lot of pain throughout the system, but we did not bail it out. We have let it collapse. We are not even able to resolve it. We now have Yes Bank, which is doddering. It's the fourth largest private bank. So if number 4 is also insecure, we don't know what's going to happen. So far, the Reserve Bank of India has said there's no need for a bailout. It's watching. Yes Bank is putting out disclosures every few days saying they're looking for investors. They're not able to get any decent investor. Every few days, a director is resigning. Just 4 days ago, one more director resigned and he asked for a forensic audit of the bank. We don't know where it's headed, but this is going to be your big test case on private banks. So, are private banks safe? We keep looking at the numbers, but if there is a fraud, we don't know about it. But I would say, relatively, at least larger private banks are safe. Don't go for the smaller ones. The third is cooperative banks. This we have always said are dangerous. They fail at the rate of one bank a month somewhere in the country. Okay? These statistics are there on the Reserve Bank of India website. We are not making it up. And we've told people that if it was my money, I would not keep more than 1 lakh, because 1 lakh per depositor is insured. Okay? Yet there are people who have attended my seminars here. They come and tell me after PMC Bank failed that, ma'am, we came here, we've heard it, but we didn't withdraw our money from PMC Bank. And one of them has 10 lakhs over there, right? So people don't listen, unfortunately. So cooperative banks is not something where I would put my money. Or there are, again, here also there are exceptions. There are 2, or I would say there are 4 big cooperative banks which are fairly safe. I mean, no casting aspersions on them. They are really good banks. They ought to be like scheduled banks. But by and large, please don't go with any unknown name which is in your neighborhood, because they fail with enormous regularity. Payment banks is something new that the government started a few years ago. It has no business model and they're all slowly folding up. I'll come to it later. Small finance banks, 11 of them have been cleared by the government. This is again a new set of banks. There are 2 things here. They are small, they are new. Good thing is they're regulated by the RBI. Does the RBI do a good job of regulating it? Well, you know what they've done with PMC and Yes Bank and others. So that's a question mark. Again, if it were my money, I would go easy with how much I put over there. There are people who write to us every few days to say, are these small finance banks good? Yes, when everything is new, they look very good. Okay? They are looking at underserved populations, which means it's a little risky to start with. In the initial days, everything usually works very well. So we don't know how we have to watch it. There's a whole lot of other stuff that's happening, which is again 2-3 years old. One is e-wallets. I mean, if you notice, everybody has a wallet, whether it is Big Basket, whether it's Ola, Uber, Amazon. Everybody wants you to, put money in the wallet and use it from there. Now, the wallet is not a standalone thing. The wallet has to be funded through your, debit card, your bank account being linked. That is where things become dangerous. Because first of all, every one of them persuades you, pushes you, gives you freebies to download an app. We find that most apps take so much of your data. They have no business looking at some of the things you do, but they're just automatically downloading it from your phone. The minute you link your bank account to it, you open yourself up to a bit of danger. Now, you'll find a lot of people saying that, people like you are skeptical, you are old school. All the techies think that life is so cool. They don't even want an OTP. They don't want, two-factor authentication. They think the minute they look at something and click on it, there should be a sale. But what we do at Moneylife, what we have done for the last 10 years, is to help people when there's a problem. And believe me, when you are that victim, the system doesn't work. None of the regulators work. India's grievance redress is so pathetic that when I look at the problems that people go through and they think we are going to help them, I'm so certain that I don't take any risks with my money. So I'm very, very careful about wallets. If I use a credit card to fund a wallet, I make sure that it does not remain linked. If there are some who automatically link it without asking your permission, then you have to go through some contortions like writing to their helpline and saying, I want to change the card, I'm going to put a new card. So if they think you're going to put another card, they give you the process to do it. But please do not keep things linked. It may make life easy, but when something goes wrong, resolving it becomes really, really difficult. P2P is something I'm going to explain in a bit. This is person-to-person lending. This is again a new business that has been started. I've already talked about payment banks and small banks, so I'm not going to go into it again. P2P I'll come to later. This is Unified Payments Interface. Again, everybody tells you that this is India's eighth wonder of the world, our creation. They have got somebody to go and tell the US, why don't all of us adopt it? And on the face of it, UPI works well, okay? So it's got a process where, you create a virtual address, but your bank account is linked behind. Those of you who read newspapers very carefully will notice that every other day, there is somebody being cheated by UPI. Because what does UPI do? It doesn't do just a push transaction. It's not that you use UPI to pay for something. Somebody else can also pull money out of your bank account by taking you for a ride. So the most common thing which you would have seen in the papers repeatedly is sites like, OLX and those kind of sales sites. So you want to sell a second-hand bike or a car or something small. There'll be somebody who is tracking those. They call you up and say, "Humko kharidna hai." Now suppose you're selling a second-hand bike, just as a way of example. You want to sell it for 5,000 rupees. You know its real value is 4,000, but you think nobody's going to pay, they'll come and haggle, so I'm keeping a little buffer. You get a call to say, I want to buy the bike. I've seen the photo, looks very good. I don't want to haggle. I'm paying you the money. I'll come and collect it later. I'm paying you the money right now on UPI. Will you share your address with me? So you allow them to so they say, I'll do a test and I will put 5 rupees into your account. Let's see if this works. I'll pay the remaining money. So the 5 rupee transaction goes through well. You are absolutely thrilled because you're getting a bigger price. The guy doesn't want to come and see it. You don't need any more buyers. So you say yes. The second one, he says, okay, now I'm sending you the remaining, 3,000 plus. And they'll send you a link. And that, when you click that link, because your mind, I keep saying the mind plays games. If you are the really careful type, you will read the fine print and say, is he sending it or is he asking it now that he's connected? Most people don't, because we have this trust factor. He's paid me 5 rupees. Now why won't he pay me 3,000, 20,000, whatever it is he's promised? So we don't look and we click, the money's gone. This doesn't happen once or twice, it happens repeatedly. I told you about that lady in Dadar 6 times. Okay, so we think UPI is dangerous because we don't think that there should be a two-way element where money can be sucked out of your account. We would be far happier with UPI if it worked one way, where you use it to make payments. That's good enough. But that somebody can pull money out of your account is something that we find dangerous. We can discuss this later in the Q&A if you all have questions, and my colleague Yogesh is an expert on this, so we will look at it. Now I'm going to come to cooperative banks because we've had this big failure over here of PMC Bank, the kind of problems there were. It's not the only one. Like I said, they keep failing. You have City Cooperative Bank, which is under a moratorium. You've got this Bangalore Bank day before yesterday where they have restricted it to 35,000 per person. I'm going to come to the changes that are happening. So cooperative banks are under dual regulation. Why are they a problem? only because of this, that RBI doesn't regulate them altogether. They are under the Registrar of Cooperative Societies. The Registrar of Cooperative Societies and the whole cooperative sector is completely politicized. So every single bank has some politicians, political parties, members of parliament heading it, being the chairman, getting elected, which means that RBI doesn't look at it closely. Even when there is a problem, it keeps getting buried for years together. The second thing they do is they place this kind of moratorium on the bank. You see, you can withdraw a small amount of money and it remains, I call it a zombie state, where the bank is not allowed to do business. You cannot withdraw your money. In fact, with that City Cooperative Bank, the amount of withdrawal today is still only 1,000 rupees. So PMC Bank, because the numbers were bigger and people stood and protested, it's gone up to 50,000. Okay? In City, it's still 1,000. Now, it remains like this for sometimes 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. While it is in this state, the bank is earning no money because it's not allowed to do business. And it is continuing to survive. It's not dead. So its employees are there. The employees keep getting salaries. Where does that money come from? The cost of administration is your deposits. So the deposits are being sort of sucked up to keep the bank running. In a case like PMC Bank, the cost of keeping it alive with its 120 branches is 1 crore a day. Okay, so it's already so many months. Just count the costs. So we've been going to the RBI, made a representation and said, why don't you at least work at finding a revival and a takeover? For various reasons, the RBI doesn't want to do it. One is, RBI is not in a hurry. They've got their own administrator sitting there. He's got a post-retirement job. The money is going from the depositor's account. And by the time, say a year or two later, if they tell the depositors you'll get half your money, people will be so happy at least to get that half that nobody's going to complain, right? So the RBI doesn't care. They're saying we're waiting to pass an act which will bring cooperative banks under single regulation of RBI. Whether that happens, whether it goes through, what happens when it goes into parliament, we don't know, because remember, every cooperative bank is controlled by political entities. We have to wait and watch what happens there. Now, this new form of lending, I don't know how, has anyone in this room got overtures saying, ye P2P lending bahut acha hai, you'll get 13%, 17%. Anyone here?
Yes.
You have? Nobody else? You too. Okay. Because we get, I mean, as Moneylife, they want us to be influencers to push people, to go into P2P lending. What it means is that people who otherwise don't have access to the banking system can borrow from an individual. So, suppose, Mr. Tahir here has 50 lakhs for them. They're telling him that, what are you getting in a bank? 7%? So, instead, you'll get 13% if you lend directly to me. Because I'm not getting money from a bank, I'm ready to pay a higher interest, and this P2P company will act as an intermediary. So, what are the checks and balances? They'll tell you it is regulated by the RBI. I keep repeatedly saying we don't know what that means because the RBI is repeatedly caught napping. Second, it says when it started, the RBI said, if even suppose there are 10 intermediaries offering P2P, the sum total that can be invested by an individual, him for instance, like I said, he has 50 lakhs, but he can't invest more than 10 lakhs through 5 P2P companies. So that's a ceiling, a check. What has happened is, then he says, how do I know that the person will repay? So they tell you, we are going to create categories of investors, the little safer ones, the little more dangerous. So the safer ones will give you a return of only 13%. Little more risky will give you 15%. High risk, if you take a chance, we have vetted them, but they'll pay you 17%. Now, I keep saying, people who are going to invest here, this is not their full-time job. They are not the police. They are not detectives. They are not going to go and check who that person is, whether he's capable of, repaying. So you're going to ultimately look at documents that are submitted to you by P2P and make a decision whether that person is really low risk or he's high risk or he's borrowed from 20 people is not something that you know. But when you ask these questions and say, no, but it's regulated by RBI. Again, there is no meaning. We are extremely wary about this. We were wary about it when it was at 10 lakhs. The business has hardly started. I mean, most of you don't even know about it. The industry has already lobbied and said, make it 50 lakhs, and now they're lobbying for 1 crore. So this, according to me, is going to be a microfinance-like scenario where you talk about it being 50 lakhs, but we'll never know. When bank interest rates go down, the reason I'm spending so much time on this is these are the kind of things that you're going to get tempted with. People have lost enormous amounts of money in FDs of companies. FDs are more or less stopped. This is something you're going to be tempted with because they'll say the returns are high. It is full of dangers, and this is especially important to people who are senior citizens who are living on their savings, and they say, "Arey, bank mein interest nahi milta hai, to kahan lagaye paisa?" You know, it doesn't beat inflation. But don't risk your capital. Just for that 3-4% more, you lose chunks of your principal, which is far worse.